Hi, everyone. This is August 7th, 2025, and this is God Talk, and we are talking about owning our ethnicities tonight. So, we're looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say. We're going to start like we always do. We have a new participant, so I'll share. And so we start with the name we want to be called, our pronouns, and an answer to an icebreaker question. And we've got, and we're also going to go around in this discussion tonight, but we'll do that after we start the discussion, talking about our ethnicity. So everyone that wants to will have a chance to participate. But we need to really be mindful of time tonight to make sure everybody gets their fair share of a chance to talk. So if you see me doing like a little, symbol like that or something, that means wind it down. Come on, let's. Y'all may not need reminders, but
Carol, you can start playing music like they do at the Grammys.
Oh, yeah. Or be like the lesbian at the AA meeting with a timer. Timer.
Okay, I'm not gonna get that anal. Okay. All right, here we go with the icebreaker question tonight is what is your favorite summer fruit? I was debating between fruit or vegetables. We'll do fruits tonight. We'll be fruity today. So I'll start, and I'll call you on the in the order that you came online, if I can remember. So I'm Carol, she, her, and my favorite summer fruit is peaches, and they're really been delicious around here lately. A lot of local peaches. Marco?
Yeah, baby. Okay, thank you. Hey, everybody. My name is Marco.
Marco?
He,
He, him?
I got apple. Oh, yeah, I got apple.
He's got some apples with him right now. I kind of think of that as more of a fall fruit, but we'll take it. We'll take it. All right. I was going to say Suzette, but I'll say Sugar Bear.
Yes, last week I was Pookie Bear. Okay, Suzette, she, her, and I was marveling at my fruit this morning, and I have been eating a lot of cantaloupe, so that's it. I'm not going to expand on that. That's it. It's so good.
Wonderful. All right, Chelsea.
So I laughed as soon as you said what the icebreaker question was, and I had to mute myself so I could tell my wife how funny it was, because I actually don't like fruit. I always make the joke that yes, I'm super fruity, but I don't like fruit. I'm the type that, like, when little kids like smother their broccoli and cheese, I'm like that with fruit. So like if I eat apples, it has to be caramel, strawberries, chocolate, or sugar. And I don't like a lot of fruits because of like different textures. I'm a very big texture person, so.
All right. Okay, Kate.
My choice has got to be, of course, we're buying a lot of fruits, but the Washington cherries that come into the grocery stores in summer, they're so good.
Okay, did you say your name and pronouns?
My name's Kate. I'm new pronouns. I'm just kidding. No, my pronouns are they, them, which I just told Gail since we've last been together. She's like, you're what? When I told her I was non-binary.
Well, I think that's lovely, and man, I will always appreciate the night that we got to talk about that first. That was beautiful. Kreger?
Kreger, he, they, and I love those Bella. I think it's Bela Tangelos from HEB. They are so good. I have two after lunch and one after dinner because I don't eat sugar. I don't eat white sugar, and so I've got to get something sweet from fruit.
Okay. Well, maybe we should go to Lynn next while Jared and Leo finish eating, or at least swallow.
Okay, I'm Lynn, she, her, and my favorite summer food is cantaloupe. I just can't get enough of it.
All right, that's 2 votes for cantaloupe. All right, Jared and Leo.
Hello, everybody. My name is Leo, pronouns he, him. And I love all kinds of fruits, but I guess if I have to pick one, it would be from H Mart. When I go to Bel Air, I always have to get persimmons.
Mm.
Yes. Your turn.
Absolutely. Hi, name's Jared. Pronouns he, him, she, her, they, them, all of the above. Give me all your pronouns. And my favorite fruit is my husband. No, wait. My favorite fruit. My favorite fruit is also persimmons. I love persimmons, especially when they're in season.
All right, Chelsea asked, what is that?
Oh,
let's see.
so it's like this. It's like this sweet, orangey fruit. It looks like an orange, but it's not, right? Like it's more like a really sweet nectarine, right?
Okay.
Well, only when it's in season, right? Like only
My
when.
wife loves fruit,
Eh,
and like one of her favorite fruits is mango, so she's always looking to try new fruits. Oh, okay, look, baby. That's what they're talking about. Persimmon.
Yeah, when they're not in season, don't eat the skin. But when they're in
Yeah.
season, you can destroy that skin.
Wow, I've never eaten one.
Yeah,
So
you,
good.
it has to be really ripe. When they're really ripe, they're so good.
The
You
best.
can eat it with the skin.
We have a tree. I've never even eaten one.
Oh, you have a
Do
tree?
you have a persimmon tree?
Oh my
Do you
god.
have a boo?
Aunt Lenore does across the way, but I'm gonna go see.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Okay. So, our topic tonight, we're talking about our own ethnicities, which has to do with even owning our ethnicities, owning our privilege, or whatever. So Suzette brought us this topic, and she's going to give us a definition.
Go.
Sugar bear.
Oh, sorry, sugar bear.
Oh, I'm gonna give you the definition of.
Oh,
I'm
of
sorry.
ethnicities. Oh,
Of, I'm sorry. I didn't do that part. I thought I
okay.
was doing the chart. So
Okay.
I
All
didn't,
right.
I didn't
Well,
respond to that. I'm sorry.
does anybody have any comments or questions about what ethnicity means?
I could look it back up because that's where I got it from. I read it from something the last time we were here. So
Let's take a moment to say hello to our new participant, Bradley.
Hey, Bradley.
We finished just going around with our icebreaker question. If you want to just say your name and pronouns and your favorite summer fruit, then yeah, I know you didn't get to hear the rest of our answers, but we would love to hear what you have to say if you'd like.
Oh,
You're muted.
I think you're on mute.
unmute.
I believe in you, Bradley.
Hey, I feel you. Boo.
One day.
Go.
Uh-oh.
There you go.
There we go.
There I go.
Hey.
Finally.
Hey, girl.
Okay, my name is Bradley. I go by he, him. My favorite summer fruit. Well, I like grapes. All versions.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay, tonight we're talking about our own ethnicities.
And
And
I
so-
have the definition now.
Okay, go ahead,
Thank
Susan.
you. Sorry for the unpreparedness. Um, it ethnicity refers to the social group a person belongs to, and it's typically defined by shared cultural, linguistic, religious, or ancestral traits. It's often associated with a common heritage, traditions, and a sense of identity that distinguishes one group of people from others. Ethnicity can involve shared historical experiences, customs, and sometimes geographical origin. Unlike race, which is often defined by physical characteristics like skin color, ethnicity is more focused on cultural factors. So there you go.
Okay, Sugar Bear, would you like to talk about your own ethnicity?
Yes. I grew up in a very culturally diverse, I was born in Brooklyn. So, Brooklyn was where the people came from to Ellis Island, people that were immigrating from other countries. So it's a melting pot of people. And my family comes from the Canary Islands, which is kind of around the Spain area. They immigrated to Cuba, so I've got some of that. And then the other people came over from Italy, Sicily, so that and Irish. So, but the main cultural influences are from Italian and Cuban. So I had one side of the family that spoke Spanish, and my great grandmother spoke no English. Um, and then my other side of the family, the Italian side, is very Guido. Um, they are very Italian, and if I go up for a visit and come back, it rubs off on me. But that's the part I gravitate towards. That's where my heart is because I love New York, and I love the food, and just the way the family is so integrated. Like it's the most important thing. It's that way in Puerto Rico too, but um it's more so, I think, in the Italian families. It's just really in your face. So, and there's really such a thing as gangsters. My Uncle Tony was one. And I grew up in that gangster culture, where there was the wife was the, queen of the family, and the father went out to wherever he went and came home and brought home all the money. And, we ate pasta and we ate baked ziti at Thanksgiving, and it was a cultural mishmash, but I I miss it. I love Texas more than life. I love it here. I mean, I claim Texas, but when I go back to New York, I just feel like completely emotionally back into who I was as a child. So it has shaped me as a person, um, and it has given me a sense of humor, I think, about my past and about those things that are ethnic. And that's why I'm having such a problem with what's happening now, because I love cultural diversity and I love all of that stuff. And we're kind of being squeezed again to fit a mold, and that's not okay with me. So I'm going to give it back to you, Carol, because that was my take on the question.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
that was really good, and you said a couple of things that I'm trying to write down so I can come back to them when we get to a broader discussion. But for now, Chelsea, would you be mind going next?
Sure. It was really kind of hard for me to think about that even after she so eloquently defined it. I think the biggest thing for me that comes to mind, just because I was around like my mom's side of the family most often versus like my step parents and my father's side. Um, and my both of my grandparents, my mom's side, and my mom and uncle and aunt were all actually Amish at one point. My mom was Amish till she was 9, and then my grandmother and my grandfather moved down here to Texas. And so like I kind of grew up surrounded by a lot of like different kind of Amish culture. Like a lot of the recipes are rooted in like Amish culture. Like my grandma and my mom and uncle still speak Pennsylvania Dutch all the time when they don't want us to know what they're saying. Um, and just kind of like stuff like that. Like I've, when my great grandmother was still alive, we visited her a lot. Um, and so that kind of shaped me in one way. Just seeing like the total different kind of way that people live. And then as far as like growing up, like in school and kind of the neighborhoods that I always lived in, I was always surrounded mostly by like Hispanic kids or Black kids, and those were actually the only kids that were ever nice to me. So, I especially was like fell in love with Hispanic culture specifically, and now I married a wonderful Mexican person. So I always tell her I'm an honorary Mexican, and she tries to tell me, no, you're white. It's okay. It's okay. And I'm like, but I don't want to be.
You're
But-
Hey.
What'd you say?
Wait, hold on. What'd you say, Leo?
you're trans Mexican.
Period. Yes.
There you
but,
go. All right. Well,
but
Leo,
yeah,
since
that's
you're
kind of where I'm sitting
speaking
at.
up, why don't y'all go next?
Yes. My ancestry is from Mexico. We're native Aztecs, indigenous people. My grandfather, I got to know my great grandma, and she spoke the dialect. And whenever the Revolutionary War was going on in Mexico, they actually murdered her parents. And out of fear, my grandfather never taught his kids how to speak the dialect, because at that time, if they knew that you spoke the dialect, oh, excuse me, they would kill you. But for us, I grew up with such respect for our elders, and I still mourn the loss of my grandma, because I lost her like 3 years ago. But I still find myself mourning her. Like maybe 2 weeks ago, broke down crying here with my husband, because we will go every year to visit her. And as far as my lineage, that's basically all I know. Like, I mean, I was born in Mexico. I was 4 years old, almost about to be 5 when I came to the States. I didn't get my green card until I was almost 21. When I got my green card, I was so happy, because the first thing that I could think of is like, I'm gonna go see my grandma. Like literally, like next month, I'm getting an airplane and going to go see my grandma. I was so happy. And then every year after that, I got to see my grandma, my grandfather, all of my cousins in Mexico, my aunts, my uncles. But family, is such a big deal for us. Family and food and celebrations. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Absolutely.
next,
Yeah,
Mike?
sure. Let's see. So, it's complicated. So, both sides. So my father's side, African American, like specifically, there was a lot of gang stuff also. within my family on my father's side. So like my original last name was not like Price, right? It's like it was actually like Locke, but they changed it because, you know, running from the gang, right? Like they escaped from like Chicago, right, to like, you know, to here just to avoid gang violence. Now, my mother's side is Filipino, and like, you know, it's hard because like there's that Batan Death March that happened where the Japanese took everyone above the age of like basically 10, right? And stuck them into death camps like the ones that exist in America today, and you know, like everywhere, and like literally killed them. So like my grandparents, and their grandparents, they don't really know their culture because like when they were like 5 and 6 actually when, you know, it happened, and so they were raised, you know, as kids, literally raising kids. So yeah, like we don't know a lot about our indigenous history, but considering that that my grandparents were both very dark complected, and the original of Pinoy people were also dark complected, you know, there's some indigeneity there, right? There's some indigeneity there. But yeah, so yeah, it's a hodgepodge.
He's also trans-Mexican.
Huh?
He's eating mole and tamales right now.
That's what it is.
Beautiful.
One of my faves. Love it.
Okay, Kate?
I had to read up on this a little bit because when you think of ethnicity, you don't automatically think about white people. But I did look up a few things, and I realized that my race is white, but my ethnicity is Irish, because I'm 62% Irish. And then the other 40% is Danish, Finland, and Western Europe, a small amount. But, and I read an interesting fact that up until the mid 1800s, the Irish were not accepted as white here. They got, you know, they were marginalized, they were discriminated against, they were given the hardest jobs. And it was you know, it was several years before they were accepted into the white race, which encompasses, you know, a lot of countries. But so, and
Yes,
I
and we'll
just
talk more
recently,
about the term white in just a
what,
minute.
I'm sorry.
And we'll talk more about the term white in just a minute. But that's a good background.
And I just recently did my genetics through Ancestry, and I've so far gotten back to like great grandparents back when they lived in Ireland.
Nice. I think I'm gonna go real quick, but I was gonna wait till last in case we didn't have time to get around, but I'll try to be fast. Most of my both all the sets of my great grandparents came from Germany, right. I mean, and they were the first ones over, and my family's pretty good about keeping history and everything like that. So we kept a lot of things like that. Just the language thing that Leo said, it wasn't nearly as strong, of course, in my family, but during and after World War II, there was like, okay, let's not speak German. Some of my grandparents were also were a tribe in Germany called Windish that had their own language and customs. Which was more like Czechoslovakian, but that's just so that's just a little bit about my history, farmers and preachers, and my great grandfather Kern came to Texas as a mission field. I thought that was funny. But anyway, Marco was born in Peru, and we don't know an exact birth date or much about his birth family, except that we know he had a sister. He had a younger biological sister, and that's about it. But I assume there's some both native and Spanish ancestry. So that's our little just a real brief history. Lynn, you want to go next?
Sure. It's quick. I am a Black American, descended from at least 2 generations of Black Americans, and can't go back. I know that my great grandfather on my father's side was white, and that's all I know. I haven't been able because, and I know that my grandfather on my father's side, his mother was a slave and died at childbirth. And that's where white comes in. And that's all I know. It's one of the tragedies, I think, of America is that if you're Black American, you probably can't go back beyond 2 generations. Because slaves didn't have names. They were listed by number. And so, yeah, ethnicity for Black Americans is different. Now, I was born in Chicago, and all of my family still lives in Chicago. And like Sugar Bear, when I go back to Chicago, I remember how I grew up as a child. Although it wasn't a predominantly, Chicago is a very segregated city in the 50s. And so, but I do remember that there was a freedom in moving about the city that seemed really different when I moved to Texas, as opposed to the segregated South, where you cross the Mason-Dixon line and you could feel it almost. So. But yeah, my ethnicity is, I say that I am we grew up in the projects in Chicago, and I am from a poor family of Black Americans raised with middle-class values and manners. And I was lucky enough to get educated, to have, to get to the highest level of education.
Nice. Kreger, would you comment?
There we go. All right. On my mom's side of the family, her dad is Swedish and her mom is German, full-blooded German. And my dad, both his parents were Croatian. So I am a complete white European male. But the ethnicity I identify with most is being gay, which is also it fits into the definition of ethnicity because we're gays are from everywhere. Gays are all color, all types, and it's that community that's really brought me to this space where I'm sitting here right now. And I grew up in Wisconsin and moved to Texas when I was 10. And about 6 months before we left Wisconsin, one Black family moved into town, and their boy was my age. He was like 8, 9, or 10, like I was. His name was Harley, and I got to be pretty good friends with Harley. But then we had to move to Texas, and I was sad. And so when I got to San Antonio is a much more Hispanic community, but does have some, does have some Black community there. But I'll never forget coming home from school the first day. I was 10 years old, and I told my mom, I was like, Mom, the Black people down here have very light skin. And she's like, those are Mexicans, my dear. And I was like, okay, well, what's that? When you're 10. So,
Interesting.
yeah, so I'm not, I'm 62. I'm not the angry white European male with the gun that's going to go do a mass shooting, because I'm happily married. I have beloved community, and I know what one looks like, because I've got a neighbor who's like, who could explode and go off at any minute. But so, I see these guys on TV every time. I'm like, oh, it's another white male angry mass shooter in their 40s or 50s, and I just like, okay, enough is enough.
Well, thank you for not being one of those. Bradley?
Well, I'm a 39 gay Black male. There's not much I know about my ancestral background. I come from poverty. I know what that feels like. Oh, sorry about that. It's my other phone. Um, from what I understand, I may have some white in my family on my dad's side and Indian. Uh, I'm not entirely sure. I come from a really big family. Both of my parents' sides are huge. I have maybe a total of 60 aunts and uncles. Some are no longer here. God rest their soul. Um, yeah,
Nice.
I don't have much to say about that, but that's all as far as now, as far as I know about my ancestral. I mean, I grew up around. I've always been around Black all my life, so that's. I mean, I know about everyone else, but me growing up, that's all I knew of.
So Chelsea's giving you a little grief about your age on the
Oh,
chat.
what?
I thought
What?
you were like me and my wife's age because you go to the church in person, right?
Yeah,
You were at the welcome table when we
yeah.
walked in, and I knew I recognized you. And when you said 39, I was like, I thought because she's barely 32 and I'm only 31, so I thought you were our age, maybe even younger. So I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it.
It's a lot of skincare, and good moisturizers,
I'm gonna need some
Moisturize, moisturize.
and some good sleep. Lots of and vitamins.
That's good advice for all of us. That's great.
That's what I was going to ask, Bradley, is do I recognize
Uh-huh.
you from the second row at church when I watch on TV from Austin? In the
Oh,
second row with Leo
yeah.
and Jarrett?
Yep.
Okay.
That's
Nice.
right.
All right.
Y'all turn
Well,
around and wave. Y'all turn around and wave to the camera, and then I'm watching.
yay.
Oh.
We'll have a connection now. Well, one of the things that we've got a lot of things that we can talk about with all of this. One of the things that I want to say about racism is that racism affects us all. And I don't mean that we're all affected like we're all victims of racism. That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean at all. What I mean is that working with racism is grief work, because like what Suzette said about loving cultural diversity, um, what how much have white people who have not been around a lot of cultural diversity lost? How many friends could we have had that were denied because of these racial lines? I mean, there are, racism hurts the community. It hurts the group. And certainly we need to address that racism is real. And so, Sugar Bear, could you put up the wheel? This is a wheel of power and privilege, and there are many versions of this. And that, you know, there's like, one of the things, for example, that is not included in this wheel that she's going to put up is religion. And I think all of us online here go to a Christian church and probably identify as Christian in some form or fashion. And so that makes us kind of part of the privilege in terms of religion. But what we're talking about specifically tonight is race. Kreger brought up some of the about sexuality. So you can see there's different levels here, and this doesn't really reflect a whole spectrum, but I think you can probably imagine that that all of these things can be somewhat on a spectrum, and but I think this gives us a little bit of a language to talk about privilege. And of course, when it comes to skin color, we're talking about racism as well as colorism. And several of you have mentioned some things about light skin or dark skin. And so we're talking about skin color as white, different shades versus dark on the outer rim of this wheel of privilege. So the outer rim being the most marginalized part of the spectrum. And one of the other things that I want to say about the word white was not even that word originated in the US, and it originated in the 1770s. So just even classifying people as white or not white was not it's a construct that is not that old. And so I want us to discuss. I want to start out by I'm going to throw out a phrase, and you can agree or disagree or elaborate on it. Here, that I can say there's two different ways to say it. One is that white people invented racism. Another thing that might come out of that is that racism was born in the US. So would anybody like to tell us their thoughts on that? Suzette, I mean, Sugar Bear?
Well, that's quite the wheel. It's very complex. I mean, I don't know how to wrap my head around it other than you would have to just take each square or each little triangle by itself and like go, wow, this is a lot to pack or unpack. And I believe that racism has been going on forever. I mean, I can't from a educational standpoint or an authoritative standpoint or whatever. I mean, racism, back when in biblical times, you know, we were definitely racists when it was the Egyptians and the Israelites, and you know, there were slaves, and you know, people. It was just very goes back before that. I mean, I think that it's a learned thing, obviously, or it has to be, and it has to come from a place of power. So you want power, so you're going to find some weakness in a person or something that makes them feel different, and you're going to exploit it. And that eventually can be, I guess, termed as racism. I think of racism as color, but I don't think I don't think that's everything. Racism is definitely more than color. So, it has to do with power, and it has to do with, you know, letting go of power and who's got it. And right now, we're in that struggle once again, and it, I believe, has racist roots. So wherever that came from, when you said racism started in America, well, you know, then I go back to Nazi Germany and you know all of that. So
but that's yeah, we definitely want to bring that up, and I think I see Jared perking up over there. By the way, I think you could take down the wheel if you want, so we can see each other's faces a little bit better. But yeah, the Nazis came to the US to learn a lot of their techniques about how to eradicate an entire race of people. They came to the US to learn racism.
We went overseas recently to learn it. You know, there's
and
news
well,
reports
you brought up the point about ancient cultures and like the slaves, like the Egyptians and the and the Israelites, but still it was Marco, please stop. Marco, stop. Sorry about that. But the modern racial categories, nobody has done racism like the US ever. Nobody has institutionalized racism. I mean, just even the term white, even just separating people out by categories. When we look at slavery, like in Jesus's time, it was, you know, it was a like a conquering, it was had to do with colonialization and all of that, but it wasn't codified like it was in this country. It wasn't like you were born into slavery, you're forever a slave, and it's because of your race that you are a slave, and that everything was defined by that. Just all of these laws, just the United States are the one, you know, we're the ones that helped institutionalize all of these rules, all of these laws surrounding race, and that's just that's how it's been. That anyway, that's just one of the things I wanted to say about what the history is. And so, sorry, I'll be quiet now. Okay, Chelsea, I think you were the next one that raised your hand.
Yes.
was
So
like-
one thing that you did mention before is like the term white in the United States like wasn't until the 70s, I believe is what you said.
The 1770s.
Yeah, and I thought it was really interesting when you think back, when did the civil rights movement come to its like forefront and come to its like final resting place. I find it interesting that right after that is when they were like, well, now we don't have any categorization between us and them anymore. So now we need to come up with something that categorizes us as better. So I just think that's interesting to think about it that way. Is like, it's a very, when you think about it, kind of when it happened, it makes sense of why that became such a needed term in the eyes of like the government as far as that, what they thought they needed to differentiate themselves. But I definitely think um, I agree with like both sides of what you're saying. I definitely think like the first thing that came to my mind was when it comes to racism coming from white people, I think that oftentimes that is where it starts, but it also starts from that system of power. Like, and oftentimes, and I'm just speaking to like, um, in let's say like the 15 to 1700s era, kind of like in the midst of colonization, specifically of America, a lot of those people were white. And when they met someone who didn't look how they expected someone to look, that being the Native Americans, I think that's kind of where the US really started. And then it started bringing slaves from Africa, kidnapping all those people and forcing them to work on the lands here, forcing them to build America off their backs and still treat them to this day like they didn't contribute to America. So I think it is very important to think about um, that it definitely does come from a place of power first.
Right. And I think some of the point I was trying to make was about how the structural racism came into being. Just to bring it forward a little, just a little bit. I want to throw out another statement out there. Where we still have hands up, so we don't need to get to this right away. But another statement that you can agree with or not: white people are responsible for dismantling racism. So from there, I'll go to Lynn, and we can come back to that question, because I know Lynn raised her hand long before I put that statement out there. All right, Lynn.
The white people in America invented racism. It didn't exist before them. You know, but race is an artificial construct. There's only one race, and it's the human race. And everybody is a little bit of something. You know, I mean, everybody is a little bit of something. There is no pure white race, you know, in different shades. Um, but I, but I really, what I really meant to say is, you know, guys, none of this can be true because we've been told that the critical race theory, which says that racism has been institutionalized in America, that's a lie. I mean, we had a whole party that told us that over and over again, and that's why we can't talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion because critical race theory is a lie, and there's no different anywhere. But yeah, absolutely. And other point I wanted to make: think about black and white. I know that colorism is a different thing, but what do you think about when you think about dark clouds, black cats? um, the color black, period, is not, nobody wants to wear black except, I understand ladies have to have at least one black dress in their closet. But I mean, and white, pure as the driven snow. You know, what do brides walk down the aisle in? A white dress signifies, virginity and purity. So even the colors they fine tuned. So most of the time when you think about black or dark colors, that's negative. When you think about white, it's always positive. So yeah.
I think that's and that's a really good example, and I think that that I think that's a good point to deconstruct is how we use language like that. And here's, if racism is a construct, if race is a construct, if racism is an invented thing, then it can be deconstructed. So let's keep that in mind. Jared and Leo.
Hi. Love this conversation. So necessary. So I'm going to kind of talk about this topic, but I'm going to talk about a bigger thing. So there's this thing in modern culture called white feminism, where it's like this form of equality that ignores race, where it says, oh, you know, like we want everybody to experience some form of goodness, but race is a social construct, and also, you know, no one's ever, you know, it you know, girls, it's just girls all got the same problems, right? With it's like whenever you're Marxist or you know, deconstructive anti-capitalist rhetoric is without racial awareness, without spatial context, right? Without understanding of like the mechanisms of like the systems, right? You oftentimes alienate people of color, right? And so a lot of times white feminism shows up in liberal spaces where a white person, usually a woman, because white men, what are they doing there, right? Would be policing the people of color on their lived experience, right? And, you know, like disqualifying their points of view on these situations. What's this got to do with this discussion about race, and this discussion about ethnicity, and this discussion about like all this? Like, I'm less focused on like because it's not my responsibility to point the finger, right? And like, you know, figure out because my ancestors, to my knowledge, aren't white. I'm more interested in how it applies in the present tense, because like the echoes of that racism exist everywhere, right? The echoes and the lack of responsibility and the dodging of accountability, right, exists in liberal spaces too, right? Don't get me started on the conservative spaces. We all know that they don't exist. What accountability, reparations, that's a slur over there. But it's here as well, right? Because whenever you don't like have that understanding of how Black women, right, are oppressed above all, above the other women, and in current times, Latino women, right, are currently the most disenfranchised in the U.S., right? Then you kind of like subvert your fights and center like whiteness and center like white supremacy and center like, you know, all these destructive things if you don't stay woke, stay in the context of your personal race and the races of those around. So, you know, being race blind is great in theory, but in practice, you don't get invited to the Black cookouts.
Yes, and Chelsea wrote something like that related in the comments. White people my least favorite quote, I don't see color. It's important for you to see the differences between us so you aren't blind to the injustices happening to the people that look different than you. So yeah, this has been a great discussion and we need to wrap it up. It seems like we could talk about this. It seems like there's a lot to unpack here. And just a quick show of hands, would you be up for maybe doing part two? Okay. Okay, great. Okay, just I um I always try to end up with where we see God in this, and certainly it's beautiful to see God's face mirrored in so many diverse parts of this conversation. This is it's just beautiful to hear all that you all have to say, um, and I think this is a good point to let Kreger pray us out. And I'm sorry, Kreger, we talked about having 5 minutes at the end to kind of decompress, and we didn't get to that. But
Well, we kind of did that when we just talked about our own ethnicities, and that so that what I'm hoping to get out of this conversation too is a little bit of sharing a piece of ourselves with each other, so we really get into that deeper love and respect for one another because we really become involved and know each other. So,
yes,
all
beautiful.
right, so I'll take us out in prayer. Holy Spirit, we're grateful for this opportunity. We got people from all over the place, New Mexico, Austin, Houston. This technology, it just makes it possible. And so we're grateful for this opportunity. It's great conversation again tonight. We just have these intense conversations, and it's just so meaningful because eyes open, ears hear, and something new is learned or gained. And that's the reason why we're here to begin with. And we can only hope that people watch somewhere out there in the universe, someone grabs a hold of this recording and a little light bulb goes off in their head and they change their mind about something. That's why we're doing this. And so we're grateful for this opportunity. And as we go through the rest of this week, we just ask for the patience to come into your presence several times a day. Just breathe, just breathing your spirit in and out of our bodies and of our minds. And that's where we need to start with love. We might need all kinds of stuff after that, but I think if we begin with love, then our heart is in the same place where Jesus was. And it's in his name that we pray tonight. Amen.
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 Work.
And
Thank
isn't it wonderful that God looks at the heart and not at the skin?
Beautiful. That's beautiful. I'll see you all next week. If anybody
See you next week.
any
Have a great
comments or concerns, I'll stay on for a little while. But we'll stop recording now.
Okay. Bye, everyone.